Thanks for tuning in to another episode of Hashtag Dork. My name is Rich Keefe, joined as always by Davey Eyeballs, aka Roy Donk Von Doy Donk. All hail the king of ginger ale. It's Ryan Davey. Davey, how are you?
I'm having a wonderful evening, Richard.
It's
starting to cool off a little bit. It's getting in like the 60s and 50s.
Yeah.
Just the perfect little weather, you know?
Now, if you're watching on the YouTube stream, you'll notice that Davey is wearing a R. Von D lightweight hoodie. That looks like a really nice piece of clothing there, Ryan.
A nice piece of cloth. It was made custom for me by a student. We have a screen printing class at the school I work, and kid actually made it for me. So
a prototype?
It's a prototype.
That's a prototype?
Prototype, but
it's not in stores? I'd wear that.
Not in stores.
Oof.
Yep. It's a bad time to go out of business with the stream.
But... Name your price. Name your price. Hey, Ryan. Did you hear about Thomas Hiddleston? You know Hiddleston, the lead actor from Silicon Valley?
Which story are you referring?
That swinging saved his marriage. What do you think of that?
I mean...
Huh?
I'm not going to knock. I haven't tried it, so I'm not going to knock it.
No, I haven't either.
Lid for every pot kind of thing. But
there is. And the story is kind of odd because like he keeps going into it like his wife's on board, but like it's all him. Like
it's not really.
It definitely doesn't sound like it's for her.
And when I read the story, it was basically like she could either like get on board with this or we'd get divorced.
Yeah, and she's like, "Fine, I'll do it."
Fine, like your show's doing pretty well. You're getting like parts in movies and stuff.
Yeah,
like, we'll let this slide, which is odd to me. It seems like a weird ultimatum.
He seems like kind of like a what's the word? How would you describe him?
He's a bit of a twerp.
Twerp.
I think
100%
you know what I mean?
Twerp. That's exactly what the word I was thinking of. He's a twerp. He's out there having sex with 2-3 women at a time.
I mean, what are the? I think. It gets complicated. I think you have to like set ground rules, but then like you have to like, I don't know how that works. I'd be fascinated to talk to somebody who lives. Yeah. And he talked in the article about like living the lifestyle, like that lifestyle.
Yeah, the lifestyle.
Like I would just be fascinated to just sit and talk. Not that I want to be sold on this, but I want to see like how that works.
I feel like it would be a great time until the moment it's done. The absolute moment it is over, you would say, "What has just happened?"
Because you can't go. But what was that movie they talk about? Like
Happy Time Murders,
being a threesome guy, and like you can't come back from that.
Oh,
I forget.
They talk about it that kind of guy. Seinfeld, he talks about it. Remember?
Yeah, that's what it is. And he's like, I still have to grow a mustache, and I still have to wear like a leather jacket. Like I'm just not that guy. Like you just can't come back from
the
that.
Roommate switch.
He wanted roommate switch.
He was with the one. He wanted the other one, and then he's like, I don't know if this is how you say it, but menage a trois. Like she's into it.
Yeah,
sure, she's into it. Anyway, that story was surprising, especially coming from that guy, because I wouldn't expect him to have a lot of lead in his pencil. But here we are.
Here we are.
All right, Ryan, should we get into the news?
Yeah, let's do it.
Okay. The big news is that Jonah Hill is going to be in The Batman, and all kinds of speculations that it's going to be a villain, and then a number of internet sources are saying that it is the Riddler.
Yeah, I mean the low hanging fruit there is you fatten him up and you make him the Penguin,
or even Calendar Man,
Yeah,
you could shave his head on Calendar Man.
Because they're doing Long Halloween. I think he would make, if you wanted to go, if this is like a Batman Year One type of situation, but they said they're basing the suit off Long Halloween, but I don't know if the movie's based on Long Halloween.
But like Long Halloween is definitely in like the continuity of Year One, so it could even be like a mix.
So what if he was like Harvey Bullock or something like that?
Yeah, did I
dirty cop Harvey Bullock, not like Gotham Harvey Bullock.
I think I would like to see his spin as like one of like the villains, like one of the rogues gallery, because like he can get kind of weird with it. Actually, where do you stand on Jonah Hill?
I think he as an actor, I think he's fine. I think he does a really nice job in some things.
Yeah.
But like speaking of interviews, like you listen to interviews with him and he's just kind of a dickhead.
Seems like a dickhead, if we're being honest. I think he thinks because he was in a couple of movies like with Oscar noms that all of a sudden the shit don't stink. Honestly, his two best performances, 40-Year-Old Virgin,
which he's in for like 30 seconds.
He just wants to take those shoes home. Just wants the shoes with the goldfish in them.
Yep.
I don't know why you're being such a bitch. Just let me get these. And probably Grandma's Boy.
I will tell you, Grandma's Boy, he's great. But the monologue of him drawing dicks as a kid in Superbad will forever be one of my favorite comedy moments in cinema.
That's actually true. I mean, that's legit his best movie.
My favorite part is when the girl starts screaming, and the kid just takes the paper and just like shoves it into his mouth, like just like eat it. Like that's my favorite part of that movie.
He slowly eats the paper.
Yeah.
Like, oh, so bad.
Yeah.
That's actually pretty funny.
Something like 8% of kids do it. It's not a big deal. Like that's one of my favorite monologues in any comedy.
Doesn't Michael Cera just end that whole thing with like, that's so fucked up?
He's like, it's super weird. Super weird.
That movie.
You know how many foods are shaped like dicks? The best kind.
All the best kind.
Yeah,
that's true.
That is true.
We could do a whole episode on
paging Dr. Freud. Yeah, we won't do that though.
Nah, probably not.
We won't do that. Yeah,
I mean, we could run out of ideas, I guess, but
we could.
Until then, Ryan, I dipped into the old American Horror Story 1984.
That started already?
It just started. I watched the first episode.
Sure.
I'm kind of in.
You're in.
So
I'm gonna watch it tonight.
I watched the first 5 seasons of American Horror Story. I loved the first season, and it was like loved, liked, didn't like. All right, I'm gonna stop watching. Like that's sort of how it went for me.
Yep.
And then, so I haven't seen the last 3. Maybe they're good. I don't know. But this one was really pulling to my heartstrings because it's all about slasher.
It's all you. This is made for you.
It's the year that I was born, so of course I'm gonna give it a go. And
not to timestamp it.
Not to timestamp it. I mean, not to now. Oh shit! Now everybody knows how old I am. But it's got Emma Roberts. It's got Billy Lord, who is Carrie Fisher's daughter.
Yep.
And it's got like a real Friday the 13th feel to it with a little bit of Halloween.
Is it at a camp?
Yeah.
Yeah.
So they're out in California. Minor spoiler, like they sort of mentioned the Night Stalker, so that it's like they're kind of tying in real world stuff, and then also like this camp, and they're bringing it back, and like it's a lot of like the real cliche stuff. But like I'm interested. I want to
like that's
what it is.
I don't want to say it's fun, but like that's as close to fun in horror movies as you can get. So like you said, I was in on Haunted House.
Loved that Haunted House.
The first one was great. The second one was
Asylum.
I liked Asylum.
Asylum's good.
Third one was Coven,
which I thought was fine. It ended poorly.
Yeah. And even like Asylum with the fucking aliens at the end, like that was super weird.
That was really weird, actually.
And then Circus or Freak Show, I was out.
I didn't like Freak Show very much. I didn't like it, but I was so high on the previous ones that I watched.
You stuck it through.
Hotel, I believe.
I started because the Gaga was in it.
Gaga was in it, but it was so weird. There's a lot of blood eating and drinking.
Yeah, a lot of.
And then there was like 3 other ones, and one of them I think involved a lot of the cast from Coven. I think so. I might have to go back and watch that.
They like cross over weirdly, right?
Yeah. So then they started to sort of like give you little crumbs that they were blending them together. Like I know you found out that one of the freaks from Freak Show was actually in Asylum. Like whatever. Like so, they're starting to slowly tie them together, and I believe all 8 seasons are on Netflix right now. So people do want to go back.
I kind of do. I kind of do want to go back and watch the Haunted House one again.
I couldn't recommend the Haunted House one enough, especially for like Dorktober. People should definitely watch that. Speaking of Netflix, Ryan, Between Two Ferns, the movie is out.
Yep.
What'd you think?
Do you see my review in 2? I did one.
Review in 2 is back.
You're kind of. It was often funny.
Often funny, yeah.
Often funny.
Did you tweet that from the designated Twitter handle?
No, I didn't. No. I didn't. It was directly from mine. Dormant. I didn't want to cross. We're staying on brand, but
okay.
I felt like, and again, this might have just been me, but like the interviews were awesome.
Yeah,
the bloopers at the end are incredible.
Yeah, during the credits were really
everything
good.
else I didn't care about.
But it was like an hour and 22 minutes.
It was super fast.
There was some filler stuff in there, obviously, like how to get from interview to interview. It was kind of like once they said they were going to do a Between Two Ferns movie, it was pretty much exactly what I thought it would be.
Yeah.
Because like you have to kind of do like a better use of your time for an hour is probably just going on Funny or Die and watching all of the old interviews.
All of them.
Like that's probably better. But this was still good enough. I liked some of the Will Ferrell stuff, like what just like a asshole he is.
Yeah. And I liked that. What's her? Lauren Lapkus. When I liked her, his assistant. And really I loved the fact that him and the cameraman like absolutely hated each other.
It's really funny
for no reason. I just thought that was hilarious.
I also thought everything specifically with Benedict Cumberbatch was hilarious.
Benefit Lumberjacks.
I mean, like that was so good. But like the whole interview and like the questions he was asking them was like good. So It's worth a watch. Not amazing. Like I gotta rank all my movies. I gotta go back and do that for 2019 so far, but like it's better than the Adam Sandler Netflix movie.
Well, yeah, I didn't even see those, but he's got that new one coming out now.
So I'm glad you mentioned that. Yeah, so Uncut Gems, which features Adam Sandler, Lakeith Stanfield, Kevin Garnett, and Mike Francesa.
Yeah, like what a fucking weird. But it's the Safdie brothers who did they did that movie with Robert Pattinson, Good Time.
Twilight. Oh,
no, Good Time.
Yeah,
which I loved. Good Time, and and just the way, I mean, you get that feel, the way it's shot. It's kind of the same. It's kind of that same feel as like Good Time. And people are like, these people are crazy with the Oscar. You haven't even seen the movie yet, and people are like, Adam Sandler's gonna be nominated for an Oscar. Like, chill out.
Sandler does look good in it though. He looks like pretty funny. Like he owns like a jewelry store. He's in debt type of thing.
A lot of Jew talk.
Well,
in the trailer.
Listen,
look, I don't like it. And they're like,
kind of stay out of it myself.
I stay out of it, but you know, like I don't know.
I don't know. It's not for me, Ryan, just to make those jokes.
No.
Now, Kevin Garnett is playing Kevin Garnett in the film. Mike Francesa is playing Anthony. That's just, I don't know, but there he is. Apparently, he needed to be in the film.
He needed an Anthony.
I don't know why they couldn't get Mad Dog. I feel like Mad Dog would be the better actor. That guy's a lunatic in a good way.
I think Mike Francesa is a moron.
Okay, well, hey, save it for the air, would you?
Sorry, I didn't mean to, like, you know.
Let's go back to Netflix here for a second. Glow is getting a 4th and final season.
I think that's the right call.
Yeah, you probably pull the plug on that.
Pull the plug on that for sure.
I got an early pick of the pod here, Ryan.
Oh no.
Yep, Sid Haig.
Sid Haig.
Captain Spaulding.
Captain Spaulding.
Dead.
Now what? We knew he was not doing well.
He wasn't doing well. Yeah. No, that's often how it starts.
It's often but it's something something catastrophic happened. Like he had like a fall or like an accident or something, and he was in. But he's old.
3 from Hell just came out too, by the way. Which is the end of the House of 1,000 Corpses, Devil's Rejects trilogy. Captain Spaulding's in that. He's great in that. Like he's scary, funny, all wrapped up into one. So that's a loss for the horror world. Sid Haig, pick of the pod.
Tutti fucking fruity.
Tutti fucking fruity indeed. And then the last thing, Ryan, before we get to your news, this is actually a nice segue into the topic du jour. That would be, there's been 2 El Camino trailers. Actually, really sort of like a 1-minute teaser and then a full trailer today for El Camino, the Breaking Bad movie, which is why we're doing all these Breaking Bads, to get you ready for that, October 11th. I think it's going to be good. I really do. They showed you more of Jesse in the trailer. They showed you more of Skinny Pete. They showed you Badger. Yeah. Pinkman looks weathered,
haggard. If you would.
Yeah. He does. But I mean, maybe it's just me like hoping that it's going to be good. But Vince Gilligan has a pretty good track record.
Well, he wrote it and directed it too. So we're talking, this guy knows what he's doing. And I was reading the thing of like some tweet that Aaron Paul put out. It was basically like, I didn't really want to do this, but like this guy gave me my career.
Yeah, true.
And I trust him. So like, I don't think they would have done this. And it's been so secretive because remember, like we were told, there might be a Breaking Bad movie. Like they might be shooting it this year. And then all of a sudden it's like, oh no, we finished.
It's Bob Odenkirk did an interview and he's like, yeah, it's out. Or it's we're done.
Like, yeah. And like, what? And then 2 weeks later,
a release date
and a trailer. Like, what is going on? So
do you think that Walter White is dead?
Yes.
So do I. And you got to assume Saul's going to be in this, right? Has to be.
And I think that they're going to be like flashback stuff.
I think Walter White will be in it, but
I think they'll both be in it.
Yeah,
but they won't be. It won't be present day.
Saul's alive,
right? But they won't be like together.
Yeah, maybe not. So this is how I want El Camino to end, and I'll mention this on probably the next 3 podcasts, just so enough people can hear it. I think El Camino should end leading directly into the beginning of Walking Dead to pay off that shared universe theory. It's an amazing theory.
It's an amazing so correct me if I'm wrong, but the first episode of The Walking Dead, one of the bikes, like the motorcycles that one of the presumably that was like abandoned had blue meth in it, or like Daryl and his brother.
Was it not Merle? What the fuck's his name? Yeah, but Daryl's brother, played by Michael Rooker.
Yeah.
He had that, and they're both AMC shows.
Yep.
And I don't know if The Walking Dead, they might. I don't know if they officially timestamp the year, but like it's around this kind of time.
Yeah.
And so El Camino could potentially end with the beginning of an apocalypse, and that would be amazing.
That would be, or Jesse finally gets to New Zealand and finds out that it's not part of Australia.
It's not a part of Australia. New Zealand is. Oh, New Zealand's New Zealand.
Yeah.
But that's how I want that to end. So anyway, Ryan, that's the way the news goes. What did we say? We get to your news.
Sure.
All right, sir. What do you have?
So the only thing I have, because we got a lot to talk about.
Yeah, we do.
So the only thing I have just today, PlayStation did their State of Play, and they released all these things. They're doing an LA Noire, a lot of VR, a lot of things that they're going to do, Rich. But the thing that has me the most excited is we finally have a release date for The Last of Us 2, which
Boogaloo.
It is not. But no. I tell you this.
And a little bit of a trailer too, right? It's like a minute,
bit of a trailer. We had a little bit of gameplay,
images.
And this game looks crisp, like super good. And I say unto you, dear listener, one of the best story-driven games I've ever played. One of probably like the best zombie movie I've ever seen that you can play.
Yeah.
Which is an amazing story, amazing voice cast. Everyone's back. You got Joel back in the trailer, which is great. Nice little reveal there.
Mm-hmm.
And you kind of got a little bit of the story. So it looks like Ellie is losing her love interest to the Fireflies, and then is going. I love the fact that you're killing more humans now than you are. Like you have to basically win this battle against humans with zombies in the mix. So it's kind of like a little Walking Dead aspect to it. And I know they're not zombies; they're like these like spore people.
Yeah.
They might as well be zombies, I'm super excited, and I believe it's February 21st.
Yeah, 2020. It was crazy to see a release date of 2020, but I mean, honestly, it's just a few months away. But
it's like you can see it coming.
I know. Well, I can't. I don't have the eyesight that you do.
Yeah.
I thought initially they said it was going to be like a December, or they were just guessing it was going to be like a December.
They were
release.
guessing. So, I mean, it's around that time. It's winter.
Good enough for me.
But that's enough for me, and I'm excited. Yeah, and so that's the biggest news in the video game industry right now that I care about. So, and that's all that matters.
And we tweeted out the trailer to that at DORK Podcast, so you guys can check that out on the old Twitter. Ryan, are you ready for the topic du jour? Ryan? The topic du jour?
I got nothing. No,
it's the topic of the day. I'm glad you asked.
Yeah.
Breaking Bad season 3. 13 episodes, originally aired on AMC back in 2010, is now currently on Netflix for your viewing pleasure. And Ryan, let me start by asking you simply, did you like it?
Oh, yes.
Yes,
I did.
Yeah.
Oh, yes, I did. Yeah. Yes,
this will be the final non-spoiler part of this, because obviously I think people are ramping up for it, so hopefully you've watched it. It's going to be all spoilers, because we're going to dive into the episodes, and I have some key questions from this as well.
Mm-hmm.
But fair to say, to this point, this is the best season of Breaking Bad?
Yes, and it is my second favorite season of the 5.
My guess is season 4 is your favorite.
Yes.
Okay. Yes. I think I got to rewatch it again. My hunch is yes, but this one's great. And we just did season 2. You can go back to that one. Season 1 is available in the archives. I believe it's episode 75. Both were very good. This is great. And one of the reasons why it's great is in addition to all of the characters, like the main characters, Walter, Jesse, Skyler, Hank, and Marie, they really elevate Saul Goodman, Gus Fring, and Mike.
Mike Ehrmantraut.
Mike Ehrmantraut. They're in it so much more. And all three of those are three of the best supporting characters, maybe in television history.
Yeah. And like there's supporting characters that are only in it for this season who are pivotal to the entire thing or the rest of the way.
Yeah, we'll get to some of the new characters. We'll also get to who didn't make it through this season.
They did not. Yeah, some did not.
But 13 episodes, Ryan. We start with episode 1 entitled No Mas, and you get the first image of the twins. Who, as you said, characters that are introduced, and also we say goodbye to them all. We say goodbye to them
all in one season. And what a glorious way we said goodbye to them.
But pretty intimidating dudes.
Yeah, with the boots and everything.
Boots and a nice clean axe.
And
that's intimidating.
It's horrifying. And they don't speak really.
No, they really don't say shit. Is
Yeah.
right. Now you also get some carryover from the end of season 2, and you find out that plane crash, which Jane's dad was responsible for, killed 167. So it's like this major plane crash right over Albuquerque. Also in this episode, Walt moves out of his house, and one of the things that I actually found funny was they're having an assembly in the school.
Oh yeah.
And all the kids are talking through their feelings because obviously it's a very traumatic event.
Yeah.
And the kids are going on, but they're all going on and on and on. It's that kind of nonsense. And finally the vice principal is like, hey, Mr. White, let's have Mr. White talk. And he goes up there, and clearly he is feeling like kind of guilty, I think.
There's some guilt there. Yeah,
there's some guilt
in his right mind.
And you know that because he clearly looked up a lot of information, and he starts out, he's like, well, nobody on the ground died, you know? That's
not that
good.
Bad.
He goes, 167 people were lost. He's like, it's just the 50th worst air disaster.
Like, and then didn't he say something to the effect of like neither plane was full? So
neither plane was full.
That's good.
He's like, and there were 737s, not 747. Do you know how big a 747 is? The kids and the vice principal's like, we shouldn't have him.
He kind of like grabs the mic from him. They play him off. But the other thing, wasn't there a kid too who's like, they say like if you in college, like if your roommate dies,
you get straight A's. If you get suicide or whatever, you get suicide.
Yeah,
or you get straight A's. So I think maybe we should get that too. And they're just like,
so but just like some levity to like the super heavy thing.
Yeah, right.
But it also, and this sets up for the rest of the season. Like Walt is completely lost it.
He's lost his mind.
He has lost his mind this season.
And what's interesting here is I think Walt kind of had an out that he didn't want to take because his pride once again got in the way. And there's a spot in this where Skylar's connecting all the dots about like how much money and cash he has and like what could he possibly do? How could he get it? She's kind of aware of his relationship with Jesse a little bit. So Skylar calls out Walt and is like, you're a drug dealer.
Yeah.
And he just looks at her like, and she's like, is it pot? Now, shouldn't he have right there?
Like, yes. Yeah, it's pot.
It's pot.
I
sell pot, but I'm done selling pot. But me and Jesse sold pot. And he might have been able to get away with it, but he didn't want to. And so he eventually says methamphetamine because he like pot's so beneath him. And it's like the scientist in him that's like, I created the best meth in the world. And I'm sick of people not knowing about it.
And it's funny how that comes out in other episodes, but the amount of like pride that is associated with all of this stuff
through the roof.
Like, no, I don't grow pot. Like I created the purest meth in the world. Like, how dare you insinuate that I'm selling like heroin?
She would have been able to get over that, I think.
But he's had so many outs and he just refuses to take them.
That's true.
And it's funny too, because then you look at the rest of the season along the way and Skylar has the same opportunity.
Yeah.
And there's a pivotal scene. Like we talk about those scenes with Walt, those like real turning points with him. And Skylar has one where she could have sold him down the river and then didn't. I think it's like episode 3 or 4. And she didn't do it.
Oh yeah.
It's episode 3.
When she tells her lawyer about it.
Yeah, or when she calls the cops on him.
Oh yeah, right. And the cop comes to the house.
Is there anything you want to tell me? Is there anything he's doing that's illegal that I can get him for right now? And she doesn't say anything.
Tell me anything.
Yeah.
Because she's so concerned. She doesn't want her kids to know. Well, specifically Walt Jr. I mean, her baby wouldn't really know, but
no. But and then again with the lawyer, that she has the same opportunity, and the lawyer actually tells her like, "This is what you need to do right now.
You need to get out of the house. Like, here's your exit strategy,
and you need to allow me to tell the cops." And she doesn't.
Right. She won't do it.
Yeah.
Jesse also gets out of rehab in this episode, and he accepts the fact that he's the bad guy. And I think one of the most important things in this whole season and maybe series, Ryan, is very simple. There's a couple of lines of dialogue in this. One where Jesse says, I'm the bad guy. You know what? Jesse's not a bad guy.
He's not.
Walt says to Gus later on.
This is key. Yep.
I'm not a criminal.
I'm not a criminal.
Yes, you are. You're
and
absolutely
I think
a criminal.
Who says I can't be the bad guy?
It might be Walt, actually. Walt,
I can't be the bad guy.
Yeah. So they're like opposites. And so you're like, Jesus Christ. Like Walt's just so like in denial of that because he's doing everything for his family, but his family doesn't even really want him to do it. And it's crazy. Also, this really sets the groundwork too for this episode or this season as Gus offers Walt $3 million for 3 months, but he's convinced that he's out because he's trying to win his family back. Episode 2 is Caballo Sin Nombre.
Yes, that's horse with no name.
Horse with no name.
Yeah.
This is the one where Walt gets pepper sprayed because he gets pulled over and gets in a fight. Well,
and while that's a funny scene, it's the very first time where you see Walt addressing a police officer, and he's trying to convince him to not give him a ticket.
Yeah.
Right. And he's like making these excuses and like this poor me thing. And it's almost like it's the first time you see Walt where he thinks he's above the law, where he thinks that like these rules don't apply to him.
Correct.
You know, and that's the important part of that scene. But it's when he's like, I'm going to pepper spray you. And you see him and then the next scene is him like with like snot and like shit all over his face.
His eyes are all red.
Yeah. And it's just that moment of like Walt is completely out of control.
Yeah. Oh, and this is the episode, by the way, where Walt does say he can't be the bad guy. So it's just very clear cut. Like, I'm not. Jesse's like, I am. And it's like, really, the roles are reversed.
Yes.
You do get some sweet payback in this episode. This is where Jesse works with Saul, and he ends up buying his aunt's old house back.
Right.
That his parents fixed up. They were selling it for $875,000. He got it for $400,000. And because they were like, oh, there's a meth lab in the basement.
Yeah, with Saul in the meeting with the lawyer.
So good.
He's like, oh. He's like, I'd offer you more, but you didn't disclose that there was a meth lab.
Amazing.
And then the scene where Jesse's parents are like trying to get him out of there because the buyer's coming.
Yeah, the buyer's coming.
He's going to be here soon. He's like, oh, yeah.
He takes the key out.
Give me the keys.
Like,
yeah.
Oh, amazing.
It's awesome.
Episode 2 is also the pizza toss onto the roof episode by Walt.
Which wasn't supposed to happen. He did he was just supposed to throw it, and
it was like the first take, I think, right?
Yeah, and he threw it up on the roof, and they played it later. They left it there. They didn't leave it there, but like
yeah.
They're like, all right, it works.
That was awesome.
And then there's that awesome scene where him cleaning it the next episode.
So good. Also, this is one of the best, or this is one of the more memorable images for a show that has a million of them. Mm-hmm. And this is where Walt never realizes how close he was to dying.
Oh, at the end with the shower.
Twins are sitting on his bed with the axe, and then they get the call, but he's in the shower and he's about to come out and get just axed to death.
Well, that's another theme that kind of is just like he's clueless as to like what he's doing, and he's just spiraling.
Yeah,
like no idea like what's going on around him.
No clue. Episode 3 is called IFT.
Sure, which this
is where Skylar
stands for.
What does that stand for?
I don't know.
Yeah, me neither. Skylar tells her lawyer that Walt makes meth. That's this episode. Hank is also kind of losing it.
Yes.
This whole season, like big time. Like clearly the stuff with El Paso is getting to him. The stuff after killing Tuco is getting to him. And so he just goes into a bar and starts a fight. And what'll be interesting for all the MMA fans out there, he got into a fight with Keith Jardine, former
is that who that was?
UFC fighter, who's like actually in a bunch of movies now. Like he's turned into like a guy that pops up as like a goon in a lot of movies. But yeah, he fought Keith Jardine.
And we're going to talk a lot about themes here, Richard. And obsession is one of the Jesse, this is where we forgot to mention it, but in the first couple episodes, Jesse is constantly calling Jane's phone.
Mm-hmm. And hearing the answer machine.
And hearing her voice on the answer machine.
Right.
And like you said, Hank has become obsessed with catching Heisenberg. Like he's obsessed with it.
The blue meth. Yep.
And all they want to do is get him to El Paso and get him out of there. And he keeps saying he's going to do it. He keeps putting it off. And he's obsessed with, finding this out. And he's getting like super frustrated with it.
Well, I think he's both. I think he's obsessed with finding it, but he also doesn't want to go back to El Paso.
No. So he's using this as like an excuse.
Yeah. He's like scared of that. And they're kind of figuring it out. And then like Gomi ends up going and he's just like,
And then he's like mad at him for going. And
yeah. Also in episode 3, Skylar finally bangs Ted Beneke,
which IFT is the last line of the episode.
Yeah.
Did you just we're not going to work blue. We're not going to do that tonight.
We're not going to go there.
No, we're not going to go there.
IFT. She does tell Walt.
She does tell him.
Episode 4, Green Light. Saul says so. Some of the things either Saul's just lying or they don't do a good job of in Better Call Saul. But I know I made note of this. Saul says because he finds Walt's telling him about what's going on with Skylar and Ted. And and Saul's like, it's no big deal. And Saul says he caught his second wife screwing his stepdad. Is Is that a thing?
I don't think that's a thing. I think he's just
messing around, right?
Just saying like whatever. Yeah. Like you shouldn't be upset about this.
Yeah.
This happened to me.
We also hear on the radio that Jane's dad shot himself.
Kind of a throwaway thing.
It is. They sort of mentioned it in there. We don't know if he died. I think the assumption is that he did. Yeah. But it's just on the radio, and Walt hears that. And then this is sort of an interesting approach, and I think it's Gus knowing Walt for a limited amount of time, but knowing how prideful he is, and so he asks Walt again, "Hey, will you do this?" And he's like, "No, I'm done cooking meth." But then Jesse still wants to cook meth, but Gus just wants just wants Walt. Yeah, but he accepts Jesse with like sort of like the close to the good blue meth, and then he pays Walt half of the money. Just because he knows that Walt will be upset that his product is out there and it's not as good.
And there's a scene in the car with Walt and Jesse where Jesse's like very proud of himself. Like he did this cook by himself.
Yeah. Yeah.
And Walt just like rips into him.
Oh yeah.
About how his stuff is inferior. Like he's never going to be as good. He's like, what are you talking? He's like, I'm going to cut you in. And Walt's like, I cut you in. Like,
he's like, you don't have to do anything. And I'll give you like 10% of what I make.
But the whole thing is like, it's my cook, it's my product, it's my, you know what I mean? And he's like going, as he's getting fired from his job for trying to put the moves on his assistant principal.
Right.
Which was super
by the
dumb.
way, good looking lady though.
Not bad. You could do worse. Do a lot worse.
You could do a whole lot worse. That's for sure. Episode 5 entitled Moss. One thing I noted here, and as Hank is continuing to go down his downward spiral, he is taking a shower in one of the scenes.
Mm-hmm.
And it has, without question, the weakest stream I've ever seen in my life.
Well,
I wouldn't be able to shower
about him.
Yeah, it says a lot.
We have forgotten in the last episode too. We get the thing with the RV. Like we're getting onto the RV now.
Yes, good point. Yeah,
where Hank is catching on to that.
Where he's sniffing around on the RV. He's tracking down RVs. There's like 29 of those RVs. Yeah, because earlier on in the season, Jesse pays for like gas and like something with meth at the gas station. Yep. And so that whole thing keeps rolling.
I'm just going through it right now. I'm looking at the weak shower stream that you're talking about.
How weak is that? It's like it's barely even on. It's horrible.
I don't know how you. Oh my God, look at that! It's like pissing on him.
I wouldn't be able to shower like that.
No, you can't do that.
You know what I have, Ryan?
What do you got?
I hate to be a braggart.
Yeah.
I have kind of one of those big like rain showers above.
Yeah.
And it's just like you get so clean and so wet.
It does.
So wet.
I would just be afraid. I like when the water hits me in the back.
Yeah, sure it will.
I don't want it like on top of I don't want to be like squinting like the whole time if it's hitting me in the top of the head.
Squinting Jackson.
Yeah.
Rampage
Squinting Jackson.
Squinting Rampage Jackson.
Yeah. I don't want to be that.
You don't want to be like Squinting McCracken?
No, I don't want that.
Former Diamondback? All right. No. So Gus is also, again, as he's trying to recruit Walt, he shows him his setup at the laundromat.
The super lab.
Yeah, that's pretty good.
Yeah.
Episode 6 is entitled Sunset. This is where you get Gale. Welcome, Gale. What do you think of Gale?
I love Gale, and I'm fascinated by him, and I really, really want to figure out how to make that coffee. Because that was like the best thing, and that it did look good. And he's just like, you talk about like you don't cook out the tannins and all that stuff, and I'm just like,
what's he doing?
What's he doing? How do you do this?
Delicious cup. Look like a delicious cup of coffee.
And I love the fact that like Walt is like getting ready for work and he like writes his name on like a brown paper bag, like he's brown bagging it.
Yeah.
For the super lab. Yeah. But this episode too has one of my favorite scenes, and that's when Hank finds the RV.
Yeah.
With Walt and Jesse are in it, like trying to get rid of it.
Crazy. And then what smart thinking too.
Yeah.
Where they call. Oh, and this is what's cool too is so they end up calling Saul, and then Saul has his assistant Francesca.
Yeah.
She calls and is like, "Oh, Marie's been in an accident," so Hank leaves.
Yeah.
So Francesca, if you're watching Better Call Saul, she's in that. So like they set that up, that relationship real early on. So that's a nice little payoff too. And she was actually in last season as well. I don't think we mentioned it, but she was in that as well. Episode 7 entitled 1 Minute. This is where Hank ends up catching up to Jesse,
really lighting him up,
beating the bag. Jesse's not a fighter.
No, he's not.
It's not what Jesse does. The next episode, I See You, episode 8. This is where Walt learns that Gus kind of knew all about Hank, and who he was. Like he knew way more than he even knew about,
because he comes and visits him in the hospital, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
You also find out that Juan Bolsa. So Juan Bolsa has been kind of hanging over this too, from down in Mexico. You find out that he gets shot in this. Kind of like, I think overall for the whole series, it's a little bit like secondary. It's like it's a part of this season, but I think it's a little bit secondary.
So we missed the one too. I forgot to mention this in episode 7 when they have you have the flashback with Hector Salamanca and the twins when they're kids.
Oh yeah.
That was a real to see him, and he's gonna kill one of them.
Yeah,
because they're like hitting each other or whatever.
It's crazy.
That was crazy.
There's some tough dudes, that's for sure. How do you pronounce episode 9?
Kafka-esque.
Okay, what does that mean?
Like Friends, Kafka, like the yeah.
So this is dumb, and so I love Jesse. Jesse's probably my favorite character in the whole series, but he's like stealing off the top here. Like in reality, once Walt and Jesse are working together, and like Walt had to fight, and so Walt, we also skipped over how like he got Gale out of there and Jesse in, and because Gus never really wanted to trust Jesse because he's a meth head or whatever he thinks he is. But so once those guys were in there, that's as like safe as you're gonna be to just cook and sell meth and make a lot of money. Like you basically drive in and punch into work. Like you're not at your house. You're not stinking up an RV.
You're not going to get caught.
They have it like as good as you possibly could. And I think Mike even meant there's a later episode where Mike's, because as shit's really starting to hit the fan, Mike is like, we got it pretty good here, Walt. Like, let's try to like, and like, so that's one of those things where you're like, Jesse, like as much as you like him, he does do dumb shit. And for him to like start to skim off the top, he's like, oh, there's an excess here. And he's like still trying to sell. It's like, dude, you don't need to do that.
Well, I think, and this is where the tragedy of the show, because that's at the end, that's what it is it's a tragedy. And it's just like, if you just said that was enough, right? If you just said, okay, we can do this forever and make $3 million for 3 months.
Yeah.
And we'll just be done.
Work for the 3 months. Don't bother these guys will kill you in a second.
And just walk away.
Alone. Yeah.
Like $3 million. I don't wouldn't know what to do with it. I would just be like, no. I just don't have to worry about shit anymore.
I would do what they did. Was it Bill Burr and Ewell, where they just have the stack of cash and he lays on it like Scrooge McDuck? That's not this season, obviously, but
you know what I would do?
What would you do? Oh, I know. 2 chicks at the same time. Yeah. You'd be like Thomas Hiddleditch out there.
Be like
you'd be in the
I'd be like someone.
Yeah. You'd be just like him, I think.
And poor Hank's still in the hospital. And what was the episode? Is this the episode with the weird hand job? Or do we miss that?
I believe that is the penultimate episode.
Yeah, it's just a weird handy by Marie.
Yeah, that's later on because I don't think Hank's in the hospital yet. Right? Or is he?
Oh, he is because because that's when the twins die in I See You, because that's when what's his name Fring visits him in the hospital.
Oh, I'm sorry. Yeah, so actually it's episode 7. The end of episode 7 is where they get into like the parking lot thing.
Yep.
Oh yeah, so 8 on he's in the hospital, right? But I think it's like this. I think it's the episode 12 where she's basically like, "Hey, you get a hard on, you're coming home." The next thing you know, and when I say coming home, I mean coming home.
Mm-hmm.
Ryan,
coming home.
Episode 10 is entitled "Fly."
Let's skip this for now.
It is directed by Ryan Johnson. We'll want to put a pin in it.
Let's put a pin in that for now.
All right, good.
Big market tease.
Number 11 is called, how would you pronounce that?
ABQ. It could be like ABQ, like Albuquerque.
ABQ.
Yeah.
Skylar meets Saul in this episode.
Mm-hmm.
This is where she has like the idea for the car wash and all that stuff. So that's pretty good. The next 2 episodes are 2 of the best episodes, I think, in the history of television.
Absolutely.
Episode 12 is called Half Measures. And this is also really telling the conversation that Walt has with Jesse. So Jesse, and we sort of skipped over the storyline with Andrea and her brother and even her son, and like and how Jesse figures out who killed Combo and all that whole stuff.
Yeah.
And so Jesse's like, I'm going to get these guys back. He's like, they're working for Gus. I saw them selling our blue stuff. I know who they are. They're using a kid, and that kid that they used happens to be like, there's a lot of small world kind of stuff. Like,
but he doesn't. It's what's her name's brother, and he doesn't know that.
He doesn't know that, but that
Andrea,
is
right?
Andrea's brother. And so the fact that it's a kid, the fact that it was their stuff, the fact that it was his buddy Combo, all this stuff, And so Jesse's like, give me the ricin. I'm going to kill these guys. And Walt says to Jesse, you are not a murderer.
Yes.
File that away for later on.
Put that away.
And then Mike tells this great story about taking a half measure about when he was a police officer.
Of good monologues.
Great monologue. Mm-hmm. And Walt just sits there quietly. He's in his house. Didn't want Mike to be there, obviously, but Mike tells him this whole story. Goes on and on about, this woman and this guy and everything else. And like the guy was very abusive to the woman. And then he ends up really threatening the guy, like putting a gun in his mouth. The guy's pissing his pants and he's crying and all this other stuff. He apologizes, all the whole thing. And he's like, if you do anything like that again, like whatever, I'll kill you. He's like, yeah, okay. And he let him go. 2 days later, like that woman's dead. Mm-hmm. And then at that point, Mike told Walt no more half measures, which Walt clearly listened to that story.
Yes.
Also really great in this episode, Ryan, is they have the meeting because Walt ends up going to Gus and telling him what Jesse's going to do. So Gus brings them all to the trailer, has his 2 guys that were responsible for Combo's death, brings them all there, and is telling them like, hey, we're squashing this. We're done. Like, these guys are good employees. Stop being an idiot. Like, if it wasn't for Walt, you'd be dead, that type of thing. And then Jesse, to his credit, stands up to Gus.
Right.
And is like, these guys are using kids.
Like, you're a good businessman. You're going to let this happen. You're going to let them use kids. And then the crazy thing is, he's like, no more kids. And the guys agree to it. So what do?
They kill the kid.
Like
crazy.
That, like crazy.
And then that's on the news. And then Walt realizes that Jesse is going to go do something. Jesse does. Jesse goes up there. And this is, as much as we shit on Walt, and again, it's probably always about covering himself. Ultimately, it is. Ultimately, it's always.
This is, yeah.
It always is about covering himself. But Jesse's definitely dead if Walt doesn't show up, because Jesse goes in there. There's 2 guys standing on a corner, and he comes like, he has no plan. He just he's pulling a gun out like across the street. Like, he's walking up to him like he's going to kill him.
Why don't you wait? Why don't you wait? Element of surprise.
Or I don't know, like drive-bys are a thing for a reason, right?
Yeah, right.
Anyway, but he's just walking straight towards them. Those guys, they all pull out their guns, and then Walt just runs them both over with his car, gets out of his car because one guy didn't get it as bad as the other guy. Yep. Shoots him in the head.
And that's how the episode ends. Wow. Like someone getting shot in the head.
So
skip flat
finale.
Foreshadowing. Yep.
Full Measure is the name of this episode, which is incredible, including the last 10 minutes of this episode, Ryan, is insane. And you go back to Walt telling Jesse that you are not a murderer. Mm-hmm. And then he says, look, the only way we're getting out of this situation, he's like, I can tell at this point that they are training Gale to cook my exact recipe. And as soon as he can do it, because now also at this point, they're telling everybody that Jesse's on the run. Like, Jesse's not here. So, because they'd kill Jesse because they think Jesse killed those 2 guys. So he's like, Jesse's on the run. Saul actually helps these guys out big time. He leaves like a little decoy, and like, because Mike threatens Saul, and then Saul has a thing written on his notepad that says like he's in Virginia. So they throw him off the scent, at least for the time being. But he's like, we got to kill Gale, who's like the sweetest, nicest guy in the world.
But I mean, hey man, Gale has this whole thing where he talks about, consenting adults and doing what they want, and everyone should be allowed to do what they want to do if they're
adults, in the lifestyle.
So he's in the lifestyle. He's in the lifestyle. It's his own fault. He knew what he was getting into.
But so Walt agrees that he will do it.
Yeah.
But it's funny because then you go back to, again, him telling Jesse that, Jesse, you are not a murderer. But because of what happens, he ends up going with Mike and then Victor, who we haven't talked about, but Victor's just like hanging around this whole episode. He's like, or this whole season.
Yeah, he's like Gus's guy.
Yeah, and he's just like always there and keeping an eye on him all the time. So Walt's like, I know I can't kill Gus there. So they end up tracking down where Gus lives. And so they're about to kill Walt. They're basically, this is done. Like, Mike is going to kill Walt. Mike and Victor, whoever, is going to kill Walt. And he's like, let me call, like, I get you Pinkman. I can get you Pinkman here. Yeah. So he calls him up and he's like, they're going to kill me. You got to do it now. And it's funny, right before the phone rings, Jesse's about to like smoke up again too. Yep. And then he's like, calls him. He's like, nope. All right, turn around. He gets down there, knocks on the door. Gale's pleading for his life. Jesse clearly does not want to do it.
Yep.
Shoots him. Season ends.
Awesome.
Incredible. Like, watching this episode again, I was still like on the edge of my seat, and
Just riveted the whole time.
I know what happens. I've seen
Yeah.
it before.
It's
There
just
was
so
no
tense.
surprises. It was so well done. The acting is so good. The tension and the build up is so good.
It's awesome. And we'll get to this next week, obviously, but the way season 4 starts.
Boy.
Woo!
Oof is right.
Yeah.
And so let's go back to The Fly real quick.
Let's go back to this.
Because one of the reasons why I also think episode 12 and 13 are so good is because episode 10 it was different. It was also a little bit more of a lull in the action. It was a little bit more character development between Jesse and Walt. Overall, not my favorite episode. I would not hold Fly up as the best episode.
Okay.
I also don't necessarily think it's the worst episode. I think it's kind of annoying. Like, it's not like because of the Fly, like it's supposed to be. But some of the stuff when they're in there together and like Walt is clearly losing his mind. He's like suffering from insomnia in the episode. He's telling Jesse about how he met Jane's dad in this episode and that he wishes that he died then. Like he says that he's lived too long. So there's, I think, some really good dialogue in this episode. What do you think of it?
I love this episode.
Okay, there you go.
I love it. And I'm about to geek out on you a little bit. And I understand why people think this is divisive because this season is so fast. Like everything happens so fast. And then right in episode 10, everything just kind of stops. And it's a wonderful break in the action because it's just Jesse and Walt this whole episode, basically. And they're in the lab and they're trying to catch this fly. And there've been so many people who have like broken down like what this means and like what it means to the whole thing. And like you said, it kind of develops not just as necessarily Walt and Jesse, but their relationship together. And it encapsulates the entire series in one episode. And they do it through and we talked a little bit about it in the beginning. And what I found fascinating was that Walt is like, for all of his like perfect ideas for how things should go and his way he's controlling things. And it just symbolized how out of control he is, that he can't take care of this one thing.
Right.
Like no matter what he tries, like it just seems to like the two of them just seem to like, forgive me, but like just seem to fuck it up. Like every time they try to do it. And Jesse's ideas are like, let's spray the whole place with chemicals. And Walt's like, no, that'll make it worse. Like you can't do that. Like it'll contaminate everything.
Like we're worried about one little contamination. Now you want to,
and it's like this one thing that like they can't seem to like figure out. But and a lot of it is like, Walt putting Jesse down and like telling him like, no, we're going to do it this way. And like kind of like all telling him what to do.
He's looking through at the bags. Like this is all crap.
Yeah. And then ultimately it's Jesse who takes care of the problem.
Right.
And it's the very first time where Jesse kills something.
Good point.
So like it's insignificant. But isn't that like, and not to be like completely like ridiculous about this, but like something's bugging them, the two of them.
I got it.
You see what I'm doing?
I got it. I'm glad you mentioned that real quick. You mentioned how he hasn't killed anything. And I pointed out in season 2 how there was that scene where there's like a cricket or some kind of beetle or a bug crawling on him and he doesn't kill it. Did you notice that was in the El Camino trailer?
I did.
There was another bug crawling on his foot and he was just like watching it go, which again is sort of proving what kind of person he's like.
And there's that and there's that, like you said, there's that moment where he's like slips Walt like some sleeping pills or something, and he's
he puts it in his coffee.
He's kind of like fading in and out, and he's telling him this story about like how he met Jane's dad at a bar, and if he had just gone home or just stayed home, like none of that would have ever happened. And like how
and he's like, I'm so sorry. And Jesse's like, because of all his rehab stuff was like, hey, it's not your fault, it's not my fault, it's not her fault.
But there's almost that moment
so close
where he tells him.
And when you're watching this the first time through, that's going to hang over him until it happens. And you thought that was when it was going to be. You thought Jesse was going to find out right then, because they seemed to be kind of connecting. They were bonding. Things overall were going all right for him. and he was about because he said, "I'm sorry." He's like, "I know." He's like, "I'm really sorry about Jane."
And you think he's gonna
"Yeah, I am too."
He's like, "Yeah, I am too." Like, and
because because he mentions the thing too. He's like, "You remember that was the night I went to your house," and like because he did like originally he went to the house to give him the money, but then he went back. But he's like, "Yeah, I remember." And you're like,
but then
"Oh
he said
shit!"
something like he said, "I never told you."
Yeah, and you're like,
how could that slip your mind? How could that slip your mind that
Yeah.
you would never tell the kid that you like met her dad like that night? Like that's such a random like.
Right.
But he starts talking about the universe and how like astronomical that was that would actually happen.
Like, this is happening right now.
And then Jesse kills the fly, and you think literally, and I know that's them squashing it.
Yeah.
You know, like that's them like.
But also, it is kind of similar. So Jesse finally accomplishes something, and he kills the fly after a whole episode of trying to do it. And when he turns to get some kind of approval from Walt's asleep.
He's asleep.
So he never gets it. He never.
And isn't that telling?
Yeah, it is.
Whenever Jesse frees them from what Walt's dead.
Yeah.
And so it's beautiful in that, and obviously the way it's shot is awesome.
It is cool. Yeah.
And they have that conversation at the end where he's like, "I'm not." Normally, Walt would be like, "You're stealing. Like you're gonna fuck this up for us. Like you're stupid."
Mm-hmm.
But he says it like, "I'm not saying you're doing this, but if you are, like, if that were to happen, I can't help you." Because remember, they start talking about how some is missing, some of the yield is missing, and like Jesse's trying to like talk circles around it, and and then at the very end of the episode, you think it's done, and then the fly comes back. You know, like for Jesse,
I think that fly. Well, there's a fly
in his apartment.
Yeah, right. Walt's in his bed and he hears the fly again. Right.
But to me, that's like Jesse's moving on.
Yeah,
and Walt isn't. Like Walt he still feels guilty. He still feels like there's something between them that he can't fix. And it just shows, again, we talked about this, the overarching theme of the whole series is that Walt is completely out of control. And for someone who's like so self-possessed and so narcissistic, he can't do this one thing. Like he can't fix everything.
Yeah, it's true.
Which is what to me, I love the episode for that. And like you said, if you said this episode sucks, it's the only bad episode of the whole thing. Like I disagree. I wholeheartedly disagree.
Yeah, no. And I think I stand by that there are no bad episodes,
none,
this one included. And I actually think the last two episodes that we talked about are two of my favorites. And this one, I think especially if you're watching it, if you're binge watching it and you're just watching them right in order, it really helps because it slows things down, but provides really good dialogue. And then a couple episodes later, it ramps up.
It's just a punch in the mouth.
Yeah. All right, so the best moments for you this season, I think we already touched on them, but for me, the best moments, like the memorable moments, were the cousins in Walt's house sitting there with the axe, like in episode 2. The shootout / like, smashing him with the car in episode 7, where Hank kills one with the car and is shooting him, and like the whole thing in the car, that was nuts. And then just the end of the last episode with Jesse and Gail. Those were probably the best moments for me.
Those are obviously like the highlights for me too. But some of the other ones that I absolutely loved, again, Saul buying the house from Jesse's parents. The scene with the RV when like, how do you know there were bullet holes before you took the tape off?
Right.
Like, I thought that was, and like there were so many moments where you think, oh well, they're fucked. Like that. This is it. Like this is how they go down, and they get out of it. And and so, like again with Hank and the cousins, the twins there, I thought that was really good. The IFT moment, was great.
Fucking Ted Beneke with his heated shower floors or bathroom floors.
And I love Mike. Mike is one of my favorite characters in the show.
So I was going to ask you if you had to rank, because it's season 3. Let's go top 3 characters on the show. What would they be?
Mike.
Wow, Mike's your favorite character.
I love Mike. I love that character. I really do.
I didn't like how mean he was to Saul. Like when he was threatening to like break his legs just to find out where Pinkman was. I was like, well, because also I'm like, I'm trying to think back to Better Call Saul, but I'm like, I thought Mike kind of knew Saul better than he knew Gus. I thought he'd be nicer to him, but maybe not.
But I think obviously another reason why I'm excited for El Camino, I think in the whole series, I think Jesse's my favorite character.
So I think he's mine too, especially rewatching it. Like you root for him the most.
Yep.
He's easily the most likable. Like for me, it's Jesse and Saul.
And I love again, and Saul would round it out. I love that.
Yeah.
I love that character.
And then
just
you know
like that
what's
slick asshole. You know,
I think yeah, no, he is. He's great. I think Mike and Gus are two guys that can say the most with a simple facial expression.
Yep.
They both are so good.
Or
at, like,
Hector Salamanca with the, I can't, it's like twitchy face. You know,
yeah, Hector's
that guy's great
too. Let's see. Oh, this is a good question. Is Skyler really one of the worst characters ever on television?
No, I don't think so. I think
so. I have a couple of issues with her, and
I do too. But I don't think she's not. For instance, she's not as bad as Deb from Dexter. Deborah Morgan from Dexter. Oh my God!
I'll take your word. All right,
horrible. She's not as bad as Becky from Friday Night Lights.
Oh, I liked Becky. You shut your mouth. I like Becky very much. See, I think she's probably bad, but I think it's become overboard. I do think it's like there was a part in this where she was willing to pay for Hank's medical bills, and they came up with a pretty good lie that it was Walt's gambling stuff. And you're like, well, then, like, why couldn't you just deal with that? Why couldn't you go like that the whole time? I don't know.
I mean, that's just it. I mean, that's just.
But then Walt also, like, Walt's such a shithead though. So it's like,
well, that's really it. I mean,
Skyler for
anytime Skyler has a handle on things, Walt changes the game.
Yeah,
true. So anytime, like, she's got this great idea with the. I love the fact that they go back to the car wash with Bogdan and like screw him out of it.
Yeah,
because that guy sucks.
That is good.
But like again, and she's like, I can't keep doing this, like laundering this money. This comes later. But like,
yeah, it's later on. But they start that process up here.
Yeah,
Ryan, if you could steal a smooch from Skyler or Marie,
oh my God,
who would it be? And
Skyler.
Before you answer,
yeah, more money, more problems.
Just remember that both of them have given hand jobs so far in the series.
Mm-hmm.
Not their finest moments, probably.
No,
or anybody involved.
You know what, though?
I think Skyler.
Marie would just tell me what I was doing wrong the entire time, and I'm not into that.
And then she would steal something from your house.
Steal something. She'd steal from me.
What if I said, I would add the school vice principal to the mix?
I've taken the school vice principal. She seems like the safe bet, not as much of a wild card.
Yeah, I think so too. I think that's for sure. So through 3 seasons,
sure.
By my count / the internet, Walt has straight up killed 5 people.
Okay.
He's also partially responsible for the 167 in the plane. I don't know if you want to give him those or not. It's kind of he kind of is. And then he also, he straight up ordered the death of Gail. I didn't even count that in the 5.
No, don't count it because Jesse
gets that one. But I'm just saying, so like through 3 seasons, he's not just making meth. Like he's a legit killer.
He's a legit like criminal.
Yeah, he's a murderer.
Yeah, say what you want about like people manufacturing drugs. Like I'm not selling them. I'm not the one putting them out there. I'm just making them. So this is kind of like what do they call like a victimless crime? But like he's legit criminal.
Because also it starts to, and we'll get into this really our next 2 episodes, and it gets more so in season 4 and 5. But when he drove into the 2 like drug dealers with his car, got out and shot one directly in the head, that was also the moment. And maybe there was, for other people, there was ones earlier, but for me, that was the moment I was like, all right, I'm going to have to sort of, like, my imagination, like, you have to let your imagination run a little bit more, because this guy 7 months ago was just a science teacher.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like, he wasn't a criminal.
No.
And now he's like, he can handle a gun that well. Like, I know it was close range.
It was pretty close range.
It was close range. But to have like that, I don't know. Not everybody could do that.
I mean, that's one of the suspension of disbelief things.
Having
shot a hand with. We grew up in New Hampshire, so we've been around firearms enough.
Correct.
Ranges. Yeah. Shooting pistols is hard.
Yeah.
It's very easy to miss.
Well, not only that, think about it. If you just smashed into somebody full speed with your car and then hopped out, you don't think you're going to be shaking a little bit?
Oh, you're going to be shaking. Not only that, but like you could be dinged up a little bit.
You might be. Did the airbag come out? I don't know.
The airbag should have gone off. It didn't.
Should have. If not, maybe a recall there.
Well, I hate that car. The Pontiac Aztec. I hate that car.
No, it's not a great car.
I hate that car.
Ryan, anything else here on season 3 of Breaking Bad?
Fly is a good episode.
Yeah. I'm with you. I think
it's a momentum killer, but like for good reason. And I love the work of Rian Johnson. Rian Johnson is a great director and like cinematographer, has a great cinematographic. I don't know if that's a word, but like a good eye, good camera eye, you know?
Yeah, he's not good with Star Wars though, Ryan. This season introduced the cousins, killed the cousins, introduced Juan Bolsa, killed Juan Bolsa, introduced Gale, killed Gale.
Yep.
It introduced Andrea, who's still around, and she will continue to be around for a little bit. So we'll see what happens there. I'm looking forward to diving into season 4.
My favorite.
All right, good. That'll be good.
My favorite one. So Ryan, much good stuff happens.
Are you ready for the pick of the podcast?
I guess.
Would you like to kick, receive, defer, or defend a goal?
I shall defer to you.
I'm going to receive this week, Ryan. I am going to my pick this week is another podcast. It'd be the Joe Rogan podcast, specifically.
What?
Do you know who his most recent guest was?
No.
Or one of his most, I don't know. I don't listen to every episode, but I pick and choose based on the guest.
Sure.
Rob Zombie.
Was it really?
And he was great. It was excellent. It was an excellent pod. Rob Zombie, I'm a huge fan of. Like, I like his movies. I like his music. I've seen it. It's the best concert I've ever seen. I'm not a big concert guy, but it's the best show I've ever seen in my life. And he is great at like these kind of like, whether it's a sit down interview or when he's a part of these documentaries or these different features on like horror movies, like he speaks really well on all of this stuff. And it was really good. He had a lot to talk about. He did.
Well, I started 2 Netflix shows this week, and I am high on both of them. Okay. And one of them, I started the Dark Crystal: Age of Resistance.
Yes,
which is pretty good. But there is also a hour and 22-minute like documentary on the making of.
Oh, okay.
It's great.
All right.
So check that out. And then there's a show called Unbelievable, which is on Netflix.
It seems kind of heavy.
It's pretty heavy.
Yeah.
It's one of the girls from Booksmart, the movie Booksmart.
I haven't watched this yet. I think I'm going to.
If you're into crime stuff based on true events.
Yeah.
Sexual assault victim. I haven't gotten too far into it yet, but basically, no one believes her.
Well, it was out in Colorado, right?
I think. Yes. Yeah. I think. But it's only 8 episodes. They're for like 45 minutes apiece. It's so definitely check it out. It's really, really good. Toni Collette's in it. She's great.
She is great. Okay, cool.
So, check her out.
Ryan, next week on the podcast, we're going to be talking about Breaking Bad season 4.
We're almost there, baby. We're almost there.
TV episodes of all time. Mm-hmm. And then it's going to get real nuts in Dorktober because we're going to have to carry over season 5. We're going to do El Camino. We're going to do Joker. And then we'll also do a bunch of horror movie stuff. So
a bunch of horror movie stuff.
That is our October.
It's a lot of stuff we got to do.
Action-packed. You can rate, review, and subscribe on the iTunes. Please do that. Tell a friend to do that as well. #DORK on Twitter. You can follow us there at Dork Podcast. You can subscribe to the YouTube channel, and you can watch these episodes on YouTube if you want to just sit around and watch.
Like we are. All I do all day now is just sit around and watch Breaking Bad. It's the greatest. It's the greatest problem to have.
It's a pretty good thing. So go to youtube.com/Dork Podcast. Also email us your thoughts on Breaking Bad or anything coming up in Dorktober. dorkpodcast@gmail.com. Ryan, I think it's fair to say another perfect episode.
Another perfect episode.
Yeah. All right.